Alright, so here's the VF-1J in Gerwalk mode, and it looks damn good. Really love the legs, how spread it is, and the angle. It's just nuts. It wouldn't I wasn't able to do this with the Yamato, but yeah, this thing just looks really good. I just put the stand adapter here. We can put it on the stand in a bit, but obviously it doesn't need to be there if you don't need to use a stand. Um, yeah, and I put the pilot in there as well, and yeah, and the antenna too. Then obviously during transformation you have to remove this chest cavity, so you put that in the box. And obviously the intake covers. It's yeah, you have to remove that as well. And as you can see here, because the hands are, I mean the elbow is double jointed, you can totally hold the gun up like this. Very natural looking. So yeah, it's pretty good, and with the all the articulation points on the leg, it just makes it. You can really mimic the some of the scenes in the anime, and yeah. Now let's compare that to the Yamato one. So I tried to do the same stance pose here. One thing you will notice is that the angle of the legs are limited on the Yamato. There's less points of articulation. I mean, you could do this, but it's really hard to balance him. So if we max out the angle on the legs, yeah. Anyway, it's not as much options you have on the Yamato. I said now it's like the cockpit is just looking down way too much. So and since the elbow is not double jointed, like if you try to hold the gun the same way, the shoulder armor is like horizontal, so it looks kind of weird. Now the downside of the DX Chogokin VF-1J is that it doesn't come with the missiles. So here you have the missile cluster, and then I don't know what it's called, but there's 4 of these, and there's 4 of these, so I got 2 extra. You know what? So I grabbed the extra missiles from the Yamato, and I tried to fit it, but it doesn't. The peg fits, but the 2 pieces on either side of they're too narrow to clamp around the mounting points on the DX VF-1J. So that's unfortunate. I mean, if I modify this, then I probably should be able to fit it, but then I won't be able to mount it on the Yamato anymore. Which means if you want missiles like this, you're gonna have to buy extra from Bandai, which feels like a cash grab. But one big difference as well is the scale of the figure. So these are supposed to be the same scale, which is 1/48, but the Bandai looks more like a 1/60 scale as opposed to 1/48 scale. So if you look at the pilots here, the Bandai pilot looks even smaller than the 1/60 scale Yamato pilot. They seem to be the same height but much skinnier, but definitely much smaller than the 1/48 scale Yamato VF-1A pilot. So there's something wrong there. I don't know why they did that, but I mean, if you look at the cockpit, I mean, let's go back to the same VF-1. The cockpit size seems to be similar. The size of the cockpit and seems to be the same, but the pilot is much smaller for some reason. So I don't know what's going on there. All right, so the pilots are back in, and so if you shake the VF-1A from Yamato, the pilot doesn't move because he's in there pretty snug. But for the Bandai, it just kind of flops around because it's too small for the canopy, or I mean the cockpit. But what are you gonna do? All right, before we transform him to fighter mode, let's bring in the stand here. Almost forgot about that. So and that looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks awesome on the stand. Kind of wobbly, but it feels balanced and stable anyway. So yeah, so that's how it looks like from the back. And so that's it. Alright, so here he is in fighter mode, and it's a good looking jet. Yeah, so just look at the side profile here, and it's very sleek. If you look like fully on the side, you don't see the arm like dangling, and the head is fully hidden. Yeah, it's a really sleek fighter jet. The landing gears can angle sideways, so it looks pretty realistic. That's good. Yeah, and you got this thing kind of, you have to push. I don't know, it keeps popping off, but I meant to pull out the air brakes, but yeah, there's air brakes here. The wing flaps here popped off on one side, but yeah, you can move it up and down. I find that the landing gears collapses way too easily, and so like when I move it, it just collapses. The tires on the landing gear, they're rubber, and the struts are all like die cast. Oh yeah, obviously you have to remove the antenna from Gerwalk. So, I mean, I guess you could say that's parts forming. Oh, another parts forming aspect of this toy or figure is the legs. So in the instruction manual, it shows that you have to remove the legs as you transform it. I tried to transform it without removing the legs, and then quickly found out why. When I was doing it, the legs are pretty heavy because of the die-cast content, and then it literally dropped from the rest of the figure. Good thing it just dropped into my desk here, only a few inches. But yeah, it's you can try to do it without removing the legs for like a truly fully transformable, but it's so much easier if you detach the legs. And anyways, so that's it. Again, the landing gear collapse on one side, and yeah, and let's bring in the Yamato one. I mean, they look good together. Obviously the Yamato comes with the missiles, and so it looks kind of sparse. I mean, how is it a fighter without any kind of weapons except for the gun, right? That's hanging at the bottom. But anyways, also the Yamato, you don't have to detach anything. You can transform him without having to What is that? The antenna that goes inside? The Bandai one has some interesting differences for the transformation. There's a little bit more steps involved with the Bandai, but I find it easier overall because it doesn't feel like you're forcing anything like that. The here it feels like when the arms fold into the back, it it feels like you're bending a piece of plastic. But for the Bandai one, it's on a slider, so that's pretty neat. And there's a couple of things that slide, like for example here on the front. Yeah, but definitely overall, it's actually pretty easy to transform the Bandai one, even though there's a little bit more steps with it. Yeah, again, also with the Yamato, you can see that the arm kind of hangs low, but that's not the case for the Bandai one, as shown earlier. And the Yamato, you can remove this and you can see some kind of radar doohickey up front. The Bandai one doesn't have anything like that. It just obviously they both have air brakes, like I said. They both have wing flaps that you can move up and down. But for the Yamato, I haven't had any instance where it popped off, whereas the Bandai just did. And okay, it keeps collapsing, the landing gear for the Bandai. Well, that's another thing with the Yamato. Well, I guess because it's just old, the missile connectors are somewhat loose, but it still holds it. That's just fine. Oh yeah, let's put back the nose cone here. And yeah, I think that's it for the fighter comparison. I think I covered everything. Again, you can see the difference in the pilot size. It's pretty it's really apparent that they are not the same scale in terms of pilot, but the vehicle itself are the same scale. Let's look at this one again in more detail. You can see that there are a lot of decals and details all over the place. Really fine details, like warning sign, keep off, arrows. You have the intake arrows there. Again, more labels and letterings, arrows all over the place. It's insane in terms of the level of details that covers the whole vehicle. On the top here, the wings itself is like how many decals on there. Actually, I don't know if it's decals or tampograph. At any rate, it's full of it. UN Spacey, and then again, beware and warning markings all over the place. Prometheus, what is that? 101. Colors here to indicate lights. That's neat. And then if you go underneath, yeah, and there's the blue and blue and red clear plastic. Then you have the turbine up front in, I think it's silver. Yeah, and it looks like the covering folds, but obviously it's you have to remove it. It's in the box right now. And yeah, and the landing gear has some nice details too. The only thing is that like the landing gear compartment there, there's no details at all. At least the one on the back is painted. Here, let me see. It's painted gray, so it doesn't look like it's just plain plastic. by comparison, obviously you have to apply all the stickers here, so just not a lot of details that you can see, but it does have the weathering effect for this, at least for this particular version. Let's see, it looks like it's dirty, but yeah. And oh, so I think this is nicer. There are some details inside the landing gear compartment, so it's painted white, and there's like, it looks like there's some structure for rigidity. I mean, you can see a little bit up front as well, but then there's big gaping hole there. Yeah. The other nice thing about the Bandai one is that you can pull down the head. So let me just close the collapse the landing gear. You can pull down the head and you can move it around, use it like a laser. The Yamato doesn't do that, and then it collapses right inside there. Oh, one thing I don't like about the landing gears, or specifically these flaps here, you have to pull it up and down, and it's really hard to open. So see, and you close it and then you slide it in. So it's not as easy as the Yamato one. The stand adapter has been attached. It's pretty secure. So let's bring in the stand. It's pretty good on the stand here. Yeah, that looks awesome. Yeah. All right, so that's it. A look at the fighter mode of. Oh, man, this is the problem with the pilot being too small. It kind of just flops around. Anyways, so that's a look at the VF-1J in fighter mode, and I guess this video is getting too long already. So next video, what we're gonna do is look at the armor and put that on to the VF-1J, and then see the full armored Valkyrie in action. Anyways, yeah, hopefully you come back, and thanks for watching. Bye now.